'cause I'm a low life. I'm a low life. I got kids I never
Alrighty,
seen.
folks, welcome back to another episode of Live in 5, baby. Episode number 80. Azo, I love just clean numbers like the number 80. You know who is number 80? The old Chris Carter. Unbelievable wide receiver.
Pretty good.
Not bad. The old Viking kind of put Moss into his place as a rookie, and then Randy said, "You know what? Slide over, homeboy. I'm the real sheriff in town." So 80. That's just a nice. You know, a number 80 as well. That comes to my chin as a Packer fan. You might have heard of him, Donald Driver. Oh my God! How sick of a name is Donald Driver? Donald Screwdriver.
I always hated that he was on the Pack because I love that name. Donald Driver as a wide receiver too. You're like, fuck, that's a sick wide receiver name.
So sick. And I would always see him at Panera. He would be rolling up after pregame skate. Me and my buddy Pete Merrick, when we played for the Green Bay Gamblers, used to go to Panera after every morning skate, and Double D during the football season would be kind of probably coming out of practice most days right around that time, about noon. And he would pull up in his old school Escalade sitting on like 24s, like some straight up blades. And he'd have that seat just cocked all the way back in the drive-through. And you'd see Double D pull up, aviator shades on at all time. Like the tint on that wasn't legal. That wasn't stock tint yet on those fucking, on the shades, on the windows. So yeah, I would always see him. It was so sick. I was like, fuck, Double D.
I always think about those guys in Green Bay too, like how they must stick out like a sore thumb. Like
unreal.
Just in that town, you know, and like I heard that guy who's I forget his name, but he signed with the Raiders this year in Las Vegas, and he's like, yeah, I'm just excited, like I'll be able to get some food after 10 p.m.
Yes,
it's just so funny thinking about that. Like these NFL guys making that much money can't get food after 10 p.m. That's probably why they're good, Jordan.
Yeah, they are. And that was
not a ton of distractions.
And when I was there too, it was before the days of Uber Eats, the grocery services. We're talking 2011 here, Azo. And those guys, I mean, you'd see Aaron Rodgers. You'd always hear about him at the local grocery store. I always see Jordy Nelson too at that same Panera. He'd just be sitting in there like in a Jordan jumpsuit with his kids. The coolest thing though about Green Bay is nobody would bother him. And they could go wherever they wanted, and people just had that respect because there was like that small town feel. I wanted to ask you though, maybe we can even tie this in just right away. It just came to my brain is one hitters with the captain. I've had this debate with my dad. Better receiver all time for the Packers, Jordy Nelson or Donald Driver? I know you're not a Packer guy, but you saw him enough to know.
Oh yeah, I saw him too many times. I used to hate playing against him. I have to go. Nothing against. I love Donald Driver, but I have to go Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
Dude, Jordy Nelson is a name that gets a little bit lost in the sauce nowadays. I feel old saying that, but that guy was a fucking dog. You know, people talk about Cooper Kupp now on the Rams. You know, he's on the Seattle Seahawks. This guy's half the player, Jordy Nelson.
Yes.
You know, like Jordy was, I know he had fucking AR-12 tossing the ball, but he was elite.
He was so sick to it. He was just a farm boy from Kansas. Like he was tough, man. He would run up the middle. Not that Donald Driver wasn't, but for a white boy too and a receiver, Jordy Nelson, like I know he's probably not a Hall of Famer, Azo, but he deserves more recognition than he gets.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, the kids growing up nowadays might not even know his name, but that just seems so crazy to me, just especially as a Vikings fan, because he was unbelievable. It's so fun to watch. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Donald Driver either, because that guy was nasty too. But Jordy Nelson, I feel like might have been just more recency bias for me, but I just remember Jordy Nelson just killing us.
100%. Now that we're on that talk, we're on a little Packer talk, we're a little AR-12. Where do you think AR-12's going, man? You think he's going to Minnesota? Is he going the Brett Favre hot route from Green Bay to New York to Minnesota? I mean, he didn't send the dick pics or didn't get caught cheating, but it seems like it could be now. ESPN is alluding to that has already signed with the Steelers. He's just been reporting at AB for like 2 weeks now. But where do you think AR-12 ends up?
I feel like Pittsburgh's kind of the only. It sounds to me like the I don't know. You can never believe these reports, Jordo, because like you're seeing so many things. Like, and these guys are saying they absolutely know what's going to happen and all of this, and it's like They don't actually know what's going to happen. But I see the reports saying the Vikings, just want to move on and kind of pass the AR-12, train. I think he would fit in well with Pittsburgh. I feel like Tomlin just would be a better coach for AR-12 right now than KOC, just because like Tomlin's a little bit older, can command a little more respect from a guy like AR-12. Which, obviously you see the reports on A-Raj too, Jordo, and you're like, oh, is this guy bad T-Bane? Is he tough to deal with? And then you ask, like, you hear players talking about him and they're like, no, he's like a great teammate in the locker room and stuff. So you just never know what to believe, but I think he'll end up with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I do too. And even like guys like Marshawn Lynch talking about how good of a teammate A-Raj was when he was at Cal. And I even saw this story. I forget who it was, but it's this guy that helps guys on the PGA Corn Ferry or maybe even it's Monday qualifiers. He kind of helps them like, manage money or, come up with different funds so these guys can continue pursuing their dreams and kind of, ease up on their travel expenses, food and everything, green fees. And this guy was talking about how Aaron Rodgers like randomly contacted him and was asking about different guys in Monday qualifiers, guys that he had heard of, maybe guys that, could be players and whatnot. And this guy basically said, I forget it, but his name, but I saw a tweet and we can pull it up too after this. He basically said that Rodgers would just send him a ton of money to just disperse to all these guys like weekly. And he's like, I know Rodgers gets a bad rap, but he's been nothing but good to me. And especially all these guys, he's trying to help make it. So I don't know. Do you think it's just because it's the media and the media leans left and Rodgers leans obviously far right? He gets just painted out to be such a bad dude. I think he would, like, if we sat down with him, he'd have beers.
I think he would be a really cool guy, a guy that could fit in with us. But I also think he's probably even a better person, than guys like us. Like, I've heard so many stories of him helping people out, and I know like when he left Green Bay, Jordo, people were like, thinking he's this selfish person and stuff, and he's done nothing but cheer on Jordan Love, and like J Love, I think can attest to it too. Like he says, he helped him a ton and just wanted him to succeed. And I think he definitely gets smeared a little bit. Now I think he does do some things, for a little bit of attention, but when you're him though, how could you not want to sometimes? You see all these people trashing you and stuff, and like, how do you not want to go on Pat McAfee and kind of make fun of him a little bit, and fire back? So I don't know, like, I've heard good things about him. I don't believe he's bad in the locker room. Like, one thing, you look at sports reporters and like the one thing they don't really know about and they get wrong oftentimes is like the inside of a locker room. A lot of the times they don't actually know. And they're reporting on it. So it's like, I would rather listen to a player talk about it on a podcast than, a journalist, which, you could go both ways, Jordo. You could, the player on the podcast knows the other player is going to be listening, so he kind of has to be nice, whereas the journalist doesn't. So you could go that way, but I'd rather listen to the players. Like, if the players are sticking their necks out for a guy and talking well about him, then I'm going to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, it was Ryan French who has basically built a hobby into a brand where he helps guys out. It's called Monday Q Info, and he, like I said, he just takes donations or tries to get these guys money to, to ultimately pursue their dream. He went on that Subpar podcast with Colton Oast, who we had on, and said Rodgers has been, just nothing but unbelievable to him. So I just think, of course he's going to troll every now and then. Why not? You're in a position, you make 40, 50, 60 million bucks a year. Who cares? Go on Pat McAfee, stir it up a little bit, get your name out there in the press. Why not? But I would definitely like to see him in the game still. And who knows if he's, maybe get another ayahuasca reset here and kind of figure out where he's going to go. But he's good for football. And I think he's still got juice in the tank, especially if he's got a team like the Steelers where they bleed just black and yellow. You got Mike Tomlin. They're going to be in the mix. Their defense is going to be good. He's got good pieces around him. I think that would kind of just re-spark, which is something that, you probably didn't have last year with the Jets.
He had a great season last year statistically. The team didn't win. The Jets team sucked, and there's a lot of, but statistically, he's still playing better than 90% of the NFL quarterbacks.
Yes.
So I don't see any reason not to take a chance on that guy. Yeah, I think if he goes to Pittsburgh, they might be a little scary.
Yeah, 100%. Azo, before we get to the weekend recap, we are brought to you by Mini Movers and Butter Golf. Mini Movers, the official moving company of Live and 5. You need something packed. You need something moved. You need something just spun up, done well, handled with care. Go over to minimovers.com, get a free quote today. Talk to the captain, send him a DM on Mini Movers on Instagram. You can even get them on X, as well as just go to their website, give them a call. You can get dialed in with Mini Movers, no matter if you're in Minnesota, Wisconsin, you're somewhere between Alaska and Nebraska. Hey, for the right price, they will do it. Azo, we are always brought to you by Butter Golf. Butter Golf, the official merchandise apparel company, lifestyle company over here at Live and 5, and as well as Gladiator Therapeutics. Always give those boys a shout out. So, Azo, weekend recap, fella. You were in the chin of Minneapolis. I believe you went and watched the Sioux on Friday, and then Saturday night, maybe you saw Bob Rock. And Bob Rock is kind of both of our spirit, just like almost like our spiritual gangsters, our spiritual animals, or my white buffalo to ever meet or interview. So talk to me on the front of how the weekend was. Clark Saunders in town, an absolute legend. So first off, I want to ask you about Friday, and how was Dale, our good friend Dale? Friday
was unbelievable. Just going, I am going to miss the Sioux games, the Frozen Face-Off and the Final Four not being at, the XL Energy Center, or, we played at the Target Center in Minneapolis. Just as a fan, it's so fun to go to those games because so many UND fans, the traveling fans, the real ones, show up, and the Minneapolis fans. And you just see so many people, Jordo, that's, it's unbelievable. Like I saw Dan Hammer, took a picture with him. Always hilarious talking to Dan.
Dan Hammer.
Oh yeah, just so many people. And
is he still selling hot tubs? What's he doing?
I didn't. You know what? I didn't even ask him what he's doing. I feel bad, Dan, for not asking. But
beauty.
We talked just our predictions for the game because I saw him before the game, and just how much he actually missed. Working the games and calling our games and stuff like that. So. That's kind of what we talked about. Yeah, the legend. I always make a mistake though, Jordan. Like Clarky's in town. Dale Saunders, one of the best guys, one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with by far.
The Godfather.
The Godfather. We used to call him the Godfather in college. He really was. He was a godfather to us, and just seeing that guy, because it's a limited amount of times I get to see the guy nowadays. But just seeing him was incredible, and I always get a little too fired up. Like I went over to Christo's house to ride to the game with him, Joe Gleason, and Shane Gersich back in town. And I'm just a little too horny to keep my foot off the gas pedal. I think by the time the second period came around, I was, seeing two pucks on the ice, which isn't great because it's a big game and I wanted to dial in for it. But just an unreal time going to those events. So I'm gonna really miss those things.
You always overshoot it too, because you're fired up.
Not to. Yeah, you're so fired up.
You're seeing those guys, like you said, once a year. Did you get some time before the game with Clarky, or just at the game?
Yeah, I had lunch with them actually on Friday down in Minneapolis at Red Cow.
Yeah,
we were having a great time. We got there. I think 10 minutes before happy hour started, and we had the beer list out, and the waitress is like, "Oh yeah, you guys are gonna want to wait 10 minutes to get your first beer because they're half off in 10 minutes." And me and Dale are looking at each other, and he's like, "I'm not waiting." And I'm like, "I ain't waiting either. We'll take our first one full price."
Yeah. Oh, obviously. Bring them every 4 minutes for the next 60 minutes, and then we'll let you know when we piss ourselves and we might need to get cut off. But yeah, just what are you talking about? We'll pay 100 for each beer. We don't give a shit. That's how thirsty we are.
Oh yeah, it's like we ain't waiting. It was so
No.
we would have paid so much for that first beer. It's like we were so excited to just enjoy a beer together. Like toasted, unbelievable time. But yeah, tough loss, Jordo.
Tough loss. Yeah, that looked like it was weird too because the crowd was. I thought like the lower bowl would be maybe sold out, but watching that on TV, it looked like it was like I don't know, 50%, 40%. I couldn't really get a good read on it, but I mean it's Western Michigan, so they're not going to travel.
No one,
unbelievable
other than UND fans. No one.
Right? Like, what do you think the game? What was the game total at? Maybe 6,000.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
6,5. It wasn't much.
Right.
It was they needed to move it to the home ice just because people aren't coming out anymore. It's not the WCHA. You don't have the Wisconsin fans. You don't have the Minnesota fans. You don't have the Duluth fans and St. Cloud fans weren't in town.
Right.
These teams, Denver, Western, ASU, there ain't a single fan traveling in for those games for those teams.
No.
I hate to say it, parents are traveling in maybe, but that's about it.
Dude, I was looking at the old school WCHA, and I played in the last ever Red Baron Final Five because my dad had asked me, he's like, "Did you play in?
How sick was that?
You played the WCHA?" I'm like, "Yeah, my last year was," and I was just looking at it. So St. Cloud that year they were ranked 4th. They finished 1st. Minnesota was 6th. They finished 2nd. We were 3rd. North Dakota at 7. Wisconsin ranked 12th. Was 4th. Denver at 14 finished 5th. Then you had Minnesota State in 6th place, Azo, ranked number 13th. And then it went Omaha, CC, Duluth, Michigan Tech, Bemidji, Alaska. Like that conference was so good. Like
so
I forgot how good it was, man.
Dude, it was the sickest. The Big Ten ruined everything. That's why I always chirp the Big Ten because that league was better than the Big Ten ever will be. I get that you're playing with Big Ten leagues, but like teams and like you got big universities, but those games are never going to be the same as what we had in the WCHA Final Five.
No, man, because you would go into even CC, who was in 8th place that year. That was no walk in the park. They had good players. They had Ryland Schwartz. They had some other pretty good players. They had Jacob Slavin on that team, was a freshman. I mean, Duluth in 9th place. Like that, they were a solid squad. So I was just looking at that. I was like, holy fuck, that conference was a wagon. Speaking of concerts, though, how was Bob Rock?
Bob Rock was just incredible, as he always is. I think it was his second night on tour. So he played Friday night in Omaha and then came to Minneapolis as a second night all on tour and
back to back.
Yeah. He just brings the energy, man. And everyone at these concerts is just in such a good mood. Like everyone's ready to have a good time, and he just comes out and his songs are so electrifying. Like I got a picture of him.
Yep. Nasty.
He got us his manager got us the family and friends passes, so we don't have to thanks Bob and the manager and Jude Hull, my buddy, for setting those up because we don't have to go to the beer stand to get a $20 beer. We can just go back to the family and friends room, head to the fridge and grab a beer and do it that way. So when you do a concert like that, Jordan, especially when it's Kid Rock, it's always a fucking banger, man.
Were you like, did you ask the manager like what his pre-show routine is, what he does kind of leading up to the show? I'm always curious too, because I'll get into my weekend. I was at a concert as well, but I'm always curious to like what are they doing? Are they taking morning skate like a hockey match? Are they going for a dynamic warm-up? Are they literally just
Those are great questions. I never asked those questions.
Never asked?
I know what he does after the concert. He just goes off the stage and like straight to his bus.
Yeah. Just like, get me the fuck out of here.
He's out.
Doesn't want to mingle.
But that's a great question. I'll ask Jude if he knows that because he like golfs with the guy and stuff. So, that'd be crazy. I bet he's pretty chill, honestly, nowadays. Like this is like saying his first rodeo, but I don't know.
Was he still rocking up there though? I mean, he's like
Oh, yeah.
54 now, man.
He's
Yeah.
you can tell he's getting a little older, but not in his performance, like
Right.
he's still got so much fucking energy up there.
What was his
His
best song?
Yeah, I love Devil Without a Cause.
Yep.
I'm going platinum. And then obviously Bowie Dabba is like, dude, I love that song. Bowie Dabba.
Oh, it's a staple. Did he do Low Life?
Oh yeah.
I've got kids I've never seen, and they mama's 17. I'm a low life.
6. Oh yeah.
I take strippers out for breakfast. You can
Yes,
add
and
that to
if
my
you-
checklist.
Oh yeah.
I'm a
If you pay attention to his lyrics, dude, they're actually just so fucking funny.
You know, one of his better songs too is Roll On. Roll
Yeah.
on, roller coaster. We're one day older. Did he do
got-
that?
He's got so many good songs, man.
He does.
Yeah, he did that one. I think there were like a few songs that I went to grab a beer for that I didn't actually know. So I was like, I'm gonna go grab a beer during this one.
Yep.
But every other song, like you kind of know, and you wouldn't realize it.
Yeah, I love him. I mean, I grew up Mikey Schmaltz. That's all he would listen to in the car is Bob Rock. So I mean, same with you, but it's just that's shit we grew up on. So I gotta go see him this year. He's doing like that Southern tour where he just basically does like a bunch of redneck state like fair festivals kind of things.
Is
Where
that
he
what
like
he's
bounces.
doing?
Yeah, he did it last year too, where like he bounces around like Georgia, Alabama, different spots. So I'm gonna try to go see him. It just didn't work out last year. He goes like into the deep jaw of the southern backwoods and does these concerts, and he'll rip them with like Jason Aldean.
Yeah.
Shout out to Toby Keith, R.I.P. But yeah, Jason Aldean, a couple other guys he'll do them with. So yeah, I got to go see Bob Rock, old Bobby. So I went to Ernest on Saturday.
Yeah.
And he's just a fan of hockey. Their manager, this Matthew Schneider, I'll shout him out. Beauty. He's just a fan of the Heat Daddy, Bobby Gucci, as well as Hockey Night in Scottsdale. So he's like, yo, boys, like I'm in town. We're doing a show out in Surprise Saturday. Swing on by. We got backstage passes. You can come hang out before the show. And we'll get you dialed in that way. You can meet Ern, whatever. We'll hang out before. So we didn't really know what we were getting into. We just got back from Newport Beach. We go out there to Surprise on Saturday, and we kind of meet Maddie, like the police barricade. They wave us through. We kind of park off to the side, and we go into this hotel room where the band and Ernest is chilling. We walk in there, and it's just an absolute hot box. Like it just reeks of dope. I'm like, holy fuck, boys, smoke them if you got them, eh? So we were just hanging out in there. Definitely got high on their supply, and
Yeah.
Ernest is just chilling there, barrel out, just hanging out, no shirt on, like. And I was asking him, like, well, like, what's your show routine? What do you do? He's like, well, like the band comes in for a sound check in the morning. He's like, today I went and got had a spa day, got a massage, just kind of hung out, took it easy, came over here, and you're kind of looking at what we do before the show. I'm like, so nice, man. So you're just having a couple glasses. He was drinking a little red wine. The band was hanging out. It was pretty cool, man. We were literally like just in this residence inn, like, they just got like a couple day rooms there to chill in before they went on stage. And then they're like, all right, well, we got to get ready here about 15 minutes before. And so we kind of just made our way to the stage and we're hanging out or whatever. But the show was awesome. Ernest I didn't know he's written 15 number one hits for songs. Like his writing is unbelievable. Like,
really?
Yeah. Obviously he's like Morgan Wallen's right-hand man, but he's an incredible writer. And he writes all these songs. And actually my sister is obsessed with Ernest. Like she's been on this guy since his come up. So the show was sick and it was cool. We were just hanging out like literally to the left of the stage, right by the guy that was tuning up the guitars. And the set was probably 75 minutes. It was cool, man. There's probably 7,500 people there. Like he's just kind of getting to that point where he's gonna really take off. Like I don't know if he'll ever be able to sell out football stadiums, but definitely arenas. Like
for sure.
He's getting there. And so it was cool, man. We hung out with him before, and then after he just kind of went Bob Rock style and got right out of there. But the coolest story, I was like, all right, you guys are in Nashville. You're hanging out with Morgan Wallen's your best friend. You're writing songs with Jelly Roll. Give me a Bob Rock story. So he's like, oh my God. So we were with Bob the other week. We were sitting at Losers. Remember Winners and Losers in the Midtown in Nashville? We've been there on the golf trip.
Yep.
So they were going to meet Snoop Dogg because Ernest and Snoop are coming out with a song together that's going to drop, I think, in the next month or so. So Snoop was in town. He was in Nashville, and he was going to roll by after he got high. And it was on a Sunday. And they roll into Losers, and who's sitting at the bar? It's Bob Rock. And Bob Rock is just 3 sheets to the wind. They say he's just pinned. Like he's sitting there hanging out. So Ern obviously goes over there and says, "What's up?" He starts hanging out with Bob Rock. They're ripping shots, hanging out. And all of a sudden, Bob Rock gets a phone call. And it's Trump. And it's Trump and Elon Musk sitting in the Oval Office on a Sunday at 8:45 p.m. their time. And Bob Rock's all lit up like they're just talking shit. It's Donnie and Elon and Bob Rock. So Bob Rock is like at the point where he's like 1 or 2 drinks probably from getting carted out of there. Like he's pinned. But he's like, "All right, hey, Mr. President, hold on. You said hi to Ernest." He's like, "Hold on. I got to make a phone call." And like, "What are you talking about?" Like, he's like, "All right, hold on. I'll call you back." So he calls this guy who's a magician in town. So Bob Rock calls a local Nashville magician, like this guy that does magic. Gets him to come to the bar within like 10 minutes. The guy comes to the bar and he's like, "Hey, I got Donnie and Elon Musk on the other end of the, call. You got to do some magic." So Bob Rock calls this magic guy over to Losers, and this guy is performing a magic show on FaceTime to Donnie and Elon in the middle of the bar in Nashville while they're in the Oval Office just hanging out. Like it's just dudes being dudes. Like that to me is just America, Ozzy. When I heard that story, I was like, this is incredible. But apparently the magic trick he did was insane. It was like he like showed him a tweet on his phone that he told him he tweeted, even though he didn't tweet it. He said it like didn't even make sense, and they were all just like blown away. And he's like, "See," and he's like, and Bob Rock told the president, he's like, "See, that's why I got this motherfucker here because he's good." So he's just they're just chilling at Losers on a Sunday. 2 guys in the Oval Office, the president, Elon, and Bob Rock, and a magician. Like, isn't that
so
insane?
Sick? It's like, crazy. Like, how does Bob Rock find himself in a position in life where he can just FaceTime the president and the richest guy in the world and get over a magician? Like, think about the guy Bob Rock is. To get like to the point he's gotten to in life is just, it's insane. It's so sick.
It is insane. And it's like guys that like artists now, like Bob Rock probably made 150, 200 million because he was in the right era, like selling CDs. Like there was no way to get free music to access. Like you were selling hard copy after hard copy. You were doing tons of shows. Like he made so much fucking money. And then just to pair it with the guy he is, like that doesn't even make sense, does it? The guy like Kid Rock. Listen, I love Kid Rock, but it's not like Kid Rock is like the Rolling Stones. Like he's close, but he's not. At the same time, he's nowhere near that.
No, he's not.
But he has the pull that the Stones never had.
Yes,
it's crazy.
It's sick.
It's sick. Crazy. Like he's like a cultural icon.
Yeah, he is. He's found his way there, and in the right spot. He picked he's on the right side of, who won the election. Think if Trump doesn't win this election, Bob Rock ain't, FaceTiming the president.
No.
So it's crazy to think about, where he's gotten himself. What an unreal story for Ernest, though. Like, I'm sure you see that. Like, that's when you realize these guys at the end of the day are, just normal dudes too.
They are.
I know they're different, but they're also just normal dudes.
They're 100%. They're just normal dudes. Especially like Ernest was like so cool, and I didn't know where he was going with that story. And then I thought about it after. I'm like, that story is so sick. Like it's just like doesn't even make sense to me. But yeah, man, the show was cool. Those guys are beauties. The whole band was cool. Like they got this fiddle player that was like an ex-military guy they found on TikTok. He's like 6'5", jack, 25 years old, duster, mullet, keeps it tight, playing the fiddle, and I guess he's just crushes trim in Nashville. He's like got a honky tonk every night. It's like that lifestyle, man. It's different. It really is. Because because if you're not the lead vocals, theoretically, you could go up there pinned every night and
Oh
just
yeah.
rock it out.
Yeah. Stay good at playing your instrument, which sometimes some of these guys are better,
Yeah.
when they're a little bit, pinned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a crazy life, but they grind for it too though, Jordo.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that you forget all the years that it takes to get to like be kind of famous, like
Oh yeah.
it's a crazy life. You've been doing it for a while once you get famous.
Absolutely. I mean, they always say the manager was a beauty, and they're like, Nashville's a 10-year town. That's they always say. It's like, and most guys, they quit before they even get to that point. Like, think
Yeah.
about how many guys have quit where maybe they were 1 year away from being.
You never know.
You never know.
If
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild?
They quit after like 4 years because they're just like, I gotta get a job. I'm getting pressure. I found a girlfriend.
And
They
like,
could have just gave up the a huge career.
well, the thing is like, how many times can you play at Tootsie's before it gets old? But then you got to realize, like, that's what it takes. That's like your minor leagues. That's playing in Utica in front of 2,000 people before because you never know who's listening. It was fascinating to me to listen to those guys talk about, like, you just never know who's in the arena or listening to you, or how you get discovered.
I was wondering about, Ernest I didn't know he was a great writer. Like, when you write a song, how much of the song is actually the writer versus the singer? Like, does it show you like when to like how to kind of sing the song, or is that the singer kind of coming up with his own, like, just with words on a fucking sheet of paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was asking his manager and Ernest, I was like, okay, so how does it work? Does Morgan Wallen call you up? Does he come over and you guys go to the back porch, grab a bottle of whiskey and a spliff and sit down and just start chopping it up of how you want the flow to go? What's it sound like? What's the beat kind of, and then how's the guitar sound? He goes, that's exactly what we do. I just have guys come over all the time and they'll be like, I need this. And this is how the hooks has to sound, and he'll put it together. The one song he did was he was telling me about the Jelly Roll song, Somebody Save Me, that song. Jelly Roll, he said, came over and was like, I need a radio #1, and I need it in 2 weeks' time. I forget the timestamp he put on it, but it was like less than a month. And Ernest said he spun it out. He has no idea how he did it because it usually takes him a little bit to write a song. He did it that day, that song.
Really?
Wrote it in one day. Yeah. Like, it's incredible, Ozzo. Like, the manager, Maddie, was saying his ability to write surpasses anyone right now. I mean, 15 #1s he's wrote. I get that the guy still has to sing it up there.
Yeah, but
the
like
words, man.
The words and like the lyrics and how the song's set up, has a lot to do with it.
It's crazy. Yeah.
How do you, you got to be, but creativity too, Jordo, is just like doing it long enough too. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
It's no different than comedians writing a bit, or
no.
It's very similar. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting and cool. But Ozzo, let's get into it. Let's get into the guts of what we wanted to talk about, what we wanted to address the people on over here. Obviously, the news out of North Dakota, 2 North Dakota guys, 2 proud alum of the University of North Dakota, strong ties to the program. Obviously, you being from that neck of the woods, my family predominantly all being from North Dakota, and obviously ties into not only the football side of things, but the hockey side. Brad Berry out, UND on the search for a new head coach. Also, I just want to start it off and say, look, Brad Berry, one of the best dudes in hockey. And I went on a little bit of a rant yesterday. We're recording here on Tuesday. This will come out Wednesday about Bubba and who I think should be the new coach. But I want to just start off with Brad Berry. Brad Berry, an unbelievable dude. Brad Berry was my defensive coach and actually came back on campus my freshman year to coach and run the D-corps. He had kind of bounced around between Columbus, a little bit in Manitoba with the Moose, and found his way back on campus as an assistant coach under Dave Haxtell. And ultimately, you know what, did a hell of a job he got the head coaching job your junior year, Ozzo, and won a national championship, which still stands to this day a first ever head coach in his first year to win a national championship. First time it was ever been done. And honestly, probably will be a little bit before that happens again. But look, Bubba is awesome. Bubba, it sucks when bad things like this happen to good people. And I
Mhm.
think I never once said that I think there should be change from the top. I think ultimately I thought maybe they could have made a move just in terms of bringing in a guy like Bryn Chiswick as an assistant coach or a general manager to head of the recruiting. I think the recruiting a little bit maybe in recent times, for better or worse, there could have been different things done. But I was shocked, man. I mean, fuck. It sucks that the excellence that is demanded at UND and
Yep.
what people expect. It's hard. It's a result business, and the team not making the tournament the last 2 or 3 years, something like this, it happens. And I just think that's the nature of the beast. And coaches are ultimately hired to get fired. We know that, but I just feel for the guy first off because fuck, he's such a good dude.
Yeah, unbelievable dude, Jordo. And yeah, dude, I think about this, like, obviously we're on a podcast, and like, it is something that, it's hard to comment on, because for me, personally, Bubs and Jax and Hack and all these coaches, Simmer, Carl, like, I love these guys to death, and I would never wish ill will on any of them, like,
No.
and I know people, do want to hear us, because that's just what that's what we've done. We do voice our opinion on things, so people want to hear our opinion on this matter, and rightfully so, but it's just really hard to comment on, because, at the end of the day, if I speak logically, Jordo, I don't know if it was the right play to get rid of Bubs. I don't know if it was the right play to keep him. Obviously, personally, I would have loved to see him stay on. I never wanted him to leave, but, who knows if that's the right call or not. I don't know. All I do know, Jordo, is I played for Hackstall, and Hackstall was an unbelievable coach. He brought a lot of he brought a lot of things to the table that I thought were, at the time I was like, he's an unbelievable head coach. Like, he's one of my favorite head coaches I've had. And I've been fortunate to have really good head coaches playing at high levels. And I've had some bad ones too, but Hackstall is a great coach. Dane Jackson and Bubs during those years were unbelievable assistant coaches. Unbelievable.
Yep.
They'd work with us on our games. I thought they were great recruiters. I thought, Bubs recruited me coming out of Ann Arbor when I decommitted from Denver. That's who I dealt with. But I knew it. I had known Jax before then. So Jax is also an unbelievable recruiter. So all of those guys were unbelievable. And then Bubs gets the head coaching job, and now Bubs is also an unbelievable head coach. When I was there, I thought he was an unbelievable head coach. That year, obviously, we had an unbelievable team. And he was the head coach of it. And Jax also an unbelievable head coach. So, like, you're asking me to put one of these guys down and voice, my opinion on, should UND get, but here's the end of the day, like, the AD's forced the decision. He makes it because he feels pressure from the fans, and that's the excellence that this fan base demands. And the fans think they have the answers, and that we can go out and get, whoever we want, or replacing Bubs is the better option. Like, are we sure we're going to find a better head coach than Bubs? Like, are you sure about that? You don't know. I don't know either, so, like, who knows if it's the right call? But I mean, you get pressure from the fan base, and you do demand excellence. And in the bottom of the line is, college landscape has changed, Jordo. The Gophers first line this year cost them, I think, $225K or something. That's a rumor that I heard. And I think our first line, Jordo, cost $12K and some free Deeks pizza on Saturday nights, so, like,
don't discredit that.
So, like, are you, what are we ranking right now in NIL money compared to these other schools? I think it's like, it ain't near the top 10 or 15. I think there might be like 10 to 15 teams spending more money than us. And do we expect to be better than them? That's a lot of expectations. I know we got a huge tradition and culture at North Dakota, and it's a great place to play. But at the end of the day, we got to figure that out. And I think, there might have to be some shuffling, just making a job somewhere where we do need a GM right now. And we do need an NIL guy looking at the money, and dealing with these agents, seeing how much their player is demanding, and seeing if we can afford him. Is he good enough to afford him? Our coaches don't have time to coach the team, the players they have, and get players for the following year, because at this point, the team next year is just almost completely different from this year. And it's just 1 year teams nowadays versus like these guys have been playing with each other for 3 years. You don't really get any of that. So can a coach the team and do that at the same time? I don't think so. How much fucking work are these guys supposed to do?
Yeah, I just think, and that was my whole point with my tweet 3 or 4 days ago, was Brad Berry. I thought he was going to stay on. To my accounts, Azo, I thought he deserved to stay on. I thought he had 1 year left in his contract, and I like Bubba. I like him as a guy. I like him as a coach. I think he's done a good job, a good enough job to keep his job for at least 1 more year. The thing that I thought was, okay, the cool thing about playing in North Dakota is usually all the coaches are on the bench for every weekend of games. And if you look around college hockey, that's not the case a lot of the times. A lot of these teams, they're out there, they're grinding. And especially nowadays, even back then when we were playing, Azo, a lot of times you look over the other bench and there'd be one assistant coach missing because you'd be on the road trying to get other players. Now, in this landscape, the university itself can only recruit so much. The tradition can only recruit so much. It comes down to dollar figure, and it comes down to how are we going to convince this kid that plays maybe in the Western Hockey League or he's playing out east? How do we convince him to come to our program? Well, that's where having a guy as the head of recruiting, the general manager, who is just strictly just dedicated to that one position, to go out there and work like a dog and find players. Now, maybe this landscape, we're going to have to find not as sexy as options. Maybe we're going to have to go to the 4-star recruit instead of the 5-star because we simply don't have the bread right now to pay them. And that, I think, finding not necessarily diamonds in the rough, but really good players that maybe aren't, as highly touted to go to the other blue blood programs. So that's where a guy like Bryn Chizik, I personally would love to see come into the fold and be that type on a coaching staff. Now, Chizik, I know him really well. Azo, you know him really well. He was a 3-year roommate of mine. I lived in the same goddamn room as this guy for 2 of those years. Was he messy and dirty? Yes, but fuck, can he recruit? And goddamn it, does he know the game? So I just think looking ahead here, first off, if you're looking at the top, aside from Chizik, because I do think whoever comes in there, they need to hire this guy. I'm not just saying that because I like him as a friend. I know the guy's game. We've had so many late nights talking hockey. He knows what it takes to get this player and these type of players back into the fold. And number 2, he's going to work like a dog on the bone. So I do think number 1, he is that guy for the job. But I think going through this process, and they're probably going to hire a guy sometime within the next week. And listen, you got to do your due diligence. You got to look outside the program, because if you don't take opinions and interview other people, you need to go through the whole process if you're the AD and everyone involved in making this decision. You got to bring people in from the outside. You got to get their make and model, their plan to how to get this thing back on track, their beliefs, all of that stuff, and just see, okay, we'll take a flyer on some of these guys because, again, this is a highly touted job. But also in that breath, the guy for the job, in my opinion, is Dane Jackson. Dane Jackson's paid his dues. Dane Jackson is a guy I think can get Sioux culture. Not that it was lacking, but it's wavered for the last couple of years. I mean, results speak for itself. I just think he's been there for so long. He's paid his dues. He's turned down American Hockey League coaching jobs, head coaching jobs at the NHL level, obviously assistant coaching jobs. Dane Jackson, to me, brother, it's a no brainer, and that's who the kids in the room want to play for. I've personally I've talked to a few of them. I'm not going to name names, but that's who they want to play for is Jax.
Yeah, and I mean, Jax, you know, it was always tough because like even when Bubs got hired, you know, I know Jax was thinking maybe he, you know, could get the job as well, get the head coaching job because, you know, that's the type of guy he is, and he's. I said this like, he's the most like Nodak Sioux culture guy I've ever been around. You know, like he's the most for the program, loves it more than I think anyone I've ever met, you know, and I love the program a lot. But this guy is like through and through. And, you know, just having that, I think he deserves a chance, you know, and I would love if they did name him the next head because he's been waiting for it for so long and just give the guy a chance. Look at it. It ain't an easy job now, you know, like it's not going to be easy. And you know what the fans are expecting. So like Jax takes this job. He knows it's on the line, you know, let's see what he's got. You know, I think it would be a great choice if they pick Jax. I
just think Ozzo, where there's a world where you bring Jax in and you give him a 3 to 7, 8 year window or however long he wants to do it. And you have a successor in place, whether that's a Match maybe or a Brad Malone, somebody as an associate coach or an assistant where Jax can kind of groom that fella and, you know, really just teach him the ins and outs of hockey and what it takes to be a coach at the collegiate level. And the good thing about Jax is he's going to go in there with a plan. He knows the players, he knows the culture, he knows their tradition already. And people will say, you know, fans or whatever, like, oh, what's going to change between Jackson and Bubba?
Yeah.
But okay, when Hackstall coached, he had a totally different style than Brad Berry, and they both worked. And Jackson is going to put his own stamp on the program and how he's going to do it. He's going to be a very emotional leader. He's going to instill confidence into his players. He's going to rely on his staff. He's going to be hard. Like that's what it's going to take. He's going to be hard but fair. He's just going to have that.
Jack's going to be a hard ass head coach. It'd be kind of
so competitive.
Oh yeah.
He's the most competitive guy I've ever seen. Like he's mad after he loses a ping pong game at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like he's choked. He's storming out of there. Like Jackson, but he's also very smart too, Ozzo. And I just think he's been groomed for so long to be in this position. And there's probably been hard days there where he's thinking, fuck, am I ever going to be a head coach somewhere? Is it going to be here? Am I going to have to uproot my family and go somewhere else? Like he is so ready for this job, Ozzo. This is his time. And I just hope they do the right thing there and give him the job and give him the reins. And then from there, it's up to him to put a competitive product in place over the next 12 to 18 months. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think especially as a former player, you just would love for them to keep it in house. You know, if the decision's already made, they're going to name a new head coach. It would be unbelievable if it was Jax. You know, I would love nothing more. And yeah, I think he's ready. You know, he's been waiting. He's waited around for it. And I don't know. That would just be so exciting.
I just think where the program's at too with the portal transfers, like the culture gets lost in a little bit of a sense of just because of that, of the new landscape. And there are a lot of good options, I'm sure, on the outside, but also they've never been to Grand Forks. They've never been in the locker room. They don't know the town. They don't know the fans. They don't know the tradition. You can try to teach people all you want about it, but Jackson's lived it. And Jackson's lived it for the better part of 30 years, man. He's been an assistant coach there for 20-odd years, a player for 4. He's been around it. He bleeds green. And I just think to instill some of that culture where it's maybe lacked over the last few years of what it truly means to be a Sioux. Yeah. That is where you have a guy like Dane Jackson in place at the helm. And then you add your staff below it of whoever he wants to go out there and get. Obviously, he's going to keep Simpson if he does get the job, but go let him find his staff, put those guys, the right pieces in place. He's going to talk to the right people who think ultimately what that should look like. And then you go to work, man. And this is a guy that has literally paid his dues to get to this point. And it's unfortunate how it had to shake out, but we're here now.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. We're here now. And yeah, he would, I would just be so, it's just such a tough deal, like
It is.
you
like everyone.
you love both of them, like it's just so hard to, move on that fast. It's like, you get dumped and your boyfriend or your girlfriend gets a new boyfriend the next day, or in like a week.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it happened, it's just what happened.
She's like dating your buddy or dating your buddy's buddy. You're asking him questions like, fuck, he's got a small wrench. Does he? Just tell me he does. He's a pussy, isn't he? Oh yeah. He's a pussy. He's not as funny as I am. Is he? No. He barely jokes, bro. Like he's so serious.
And Jordo, it's so funny, talking about coaches and when you're hiring a coach, and there will be people, if Jackson is hired, there will be people that like will say whatever, like, oh, he's not going to do this, or Bubs did this wrong, he wasn't that good of a coach. It's like, and I could say that too, but it's like those guys could pick apart my hockey game, when I was playing, like if they wanted to, like all the things I did wrong, but I bet they would still consider me a pretty good player,
Yep.
But and it's so easy to pick apart from this side, but yeah, Jackson, the boys would have the Sioux culture and the Nodak culture in the room with that guy at the helm.
Yeah, he'd be pulling out the most famous quote, or my favorite quote he always would say is, it's a knife fight in a ditch. That would be like one of the first things he'd be pulling out. You know what I mean? Boys, we're going into this. It's a knife fight in a ditch. So,
and it's cool. It would be cool. It would be cool to see Jax as that head coach, because as a head coach, your personality and kind of like image has to change from being that assistant coach, like, because the assistant coaches are like kind of the players' coaches. They're a little bit closer with the team. And now you're like kind of got to be the prick. It'd be cool to see that, because Jax is going to be fucking hard. He's going to be hard on you, but you're going to want to run through a brick wall with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. It's like, he's going to be hard. He's going to be fair. I just think he's going to be like a mix between hack and like a little, he's going to have that emotional level of not a Tortorella, but he's going to have some fire to him. And then he's going to have just the logistical side to make in-game adjustments, to, again, rely on his staff to appoint different guys to, the penalty kill and the power play. And then I think his biggest quality, Azo, is just managing people, of how much he truly cares. And the message, he might snap, but the message always comes from a place of love. And he actually truly loves his players. Like he is a ride or die motherfucker. Like that guy is a foxhole guy to a T. And that's where I just think he edges out so many other options, because number one, he has the Sioux pedigree, but he's the most competitive guy I've ever seen. It's crazy.
I guarantee you, like, he would be able to get the most amount of players to stay.
Yes.
At the university as the next coach, rather than like, if they went outside, I feel like the boys would be pissed. Like, cause Jax is a guy like those guys fucking love.
Yeah, man. I just, I don't think that would sit well with a lot of the current players.
Yeah.
I really don't. And the alumni and especially dudes we hang out with, I think we speak all the same language of where we want this to go and who we want at the helm and who's ready. And that's 2-4, man. That's our guy.
Yeah. 100%.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I think
we'll see. It sounds like you're going to make a quick decision.
Yeah, it sounds like it's maybe by Saturday is what I'm hearing. So, but I do think it's smart to interview on the outside, despite whatever you might think or your gut tells you as the AD. I think it's smart just to bring in other guys and just to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, 100%. You kind of just have to do that, especially even if it's not only for the public, but because at the end of the day, you're trying to keep these fans happy, because
Yeah.
they're the ones coming to the games, and these fans are, I love the Nodak fans. They're my favorite fan base ever, but we can be, and I'm part of it. We can be fucking stupid, Jordo.
Yeah.
The,
I mean,
fans don't always know best. Trust me.
No, I mean, people live and die by one loss to St. Lawrence. Or like, fucking fire this guy. It's like, well, he's pretty good, and we're still paying him, and he's a good coach. Like, and that's why you never leave a good time for a good time. And the grass is theoretically never greener. You got to be careful. Like,
yeah,
Brad Berry's a good man. Brad Berry's a good coach, and that's what I think. In all of this, Ozzo, just kind of just circling back, it's like, if you're going to get rid of Bubs, which say whatever you want about it, I think there's only one man that would deserve the opportunity is all I'm saying. And that's Dane Jackson. Like, if you're getting rid of Brad Berry, who's won a national championship, how many league titles? Like, the guy's been a really good coach, a sub 650 win percentage. Like, don't look outside and think there's this new shiny toy over here that's been young and coming up of Hockey East or something like that. Like, that's not the play. The play, if you're doing this move, you better fucking know who you're hiring. And that's 2-4.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, exactly. Like, careful what you wish for, folks.
Yes.
Because
you could get yourself in some real hot water.
You think that job ain't easy, Jordo.
No, it's not.
I can't even come close to doing that job.
No, that's a very stressful, thankless job too. Because if you don't win a national championship, you're looked at as a failure.
Yeah, and that ain't easy. Ask Minnesota.
Yeah. So, Ozzo, let's get to our nail gun of the week, brother. Did you have a nail gun this week? I had one.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out Alex Bump on Western Michigan.
The old Bump. Just
an unbelievable player. I mean, he picked us apart, but he ends up winning the NCHC Frozen Face-Off in overtime. This is a guy who, Jordan, he was good enough to play for all these schools like North Dakota, Minnesota, Denver. None of them wanted him because of character flaws or something happened in high school, but comes back with Western Michigan and wins the whole thing. And he's NCHC Forward of the Year. Just an unbelievable player. And I always loved his game, and he comes back and does it again in the X like he did in high school with Prior Lake. So I had to shout him out as the nail gun of the week.
Yeah, I love that. And what a name, the old Key Bump. He's sick too, name. By the way.
Oh, nasty.
I think he's going to get a chance to play in Philly. I really like his game. So the old Bumper, Western Michigan fella, solid squad coming into Fargo this week. They got that Fargo gauntlet. I don't know what you're doing this weekend, but that's a nice little regional.
That ain't easy.
No.
Yeah.
Was it Minnesota, Mankato, Bump and Western, and then who are they playing? They're playing
UMass in Minnesota.
Okay. So that's a hell of a regional.
Tough.
UND should be there.
I know. It's painful. Yeah. I think that's what the fans are so mad about. They want that game in Fargo. It's so fun.
Yeah, they want to get drunk at the hub and go over there.
Yeah, 100%.
Ozzo, my nail gun of the week comes in the women's side of college hockey in the national championship game. Shout out to Kristen Sims of the University of Wisconsin. Ozzo, with 18.9 seconds left, the University of Wisconsin was awarded a penalty shot. Mark Johnson, Magic, the son of Badger Bob Johnson, calls in the team and asks, who wants to take the penalty shot? And Simsy says, me. Steps up, puts her hand to God and says, I got this, and then pulls out an absolutely nasty shootout move.
Sick.
To tie the game up. They win in overtime. Like, how nails was that? Simsy raises her hand and says, I got this. So she is my nail gun of the week. UW went on to win that, natty champs. But Ozzo, I just thought that confidence we could all use, my friend.
100%. Great call there. And such a good play by Mark Johnson too. Like, you ask that question and someone immediately raises their hand, like, that's your guy. That's the one.
Yes.
Like, that's unbelievable. Like, imagine how you're scoring.
Yes.
If you raise it up that quick, like, give it to me.
Yes.
Like, what was left? Like, was there like 20 seconds left or something in the game?
18.9. Yep. They were down, tied it up, then won in overtime. Yeah,
and it's
Simsy,
such a sick move.
like to call your shot like that, like the
Yeah.
Bambino.
Yeah.
Like, you're tucking. I see that as a coach. I'm like, holy fuck.
I'm like, let's go. Like, she's talking
Like,
for sure.
Like, there's no way she's missing that.
No.
And that move was just
And just
filthy.
toasted the goalie.
Oh, brought it to the backhand and back to the forehand and just had the whole net, had her just on the other side of the 4x6. That was
It was a little like one of the Lammy
Yes.
goal in Olympics.
the old oops, I did it again, I think she called it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was sick, brother. That was nasty. So shout out to UW. Shout out to those gals. Azo, the People's Insider term of the week is Chinese triangle. Now I'm rocking a Chinese triangle curve right now, and I actually saw it on Post Malone in that new music video he did with Blake Shelton, Somebody Get Me a Drink. And I said, oh my God, the Chinese triangle is back. So the Chinese triangle curve dates back to the Little League World Series we used to watch in Williamsport growing up. Chinese Taipei used to come into the chin of Williamsport and play, but every single one of their players had the triangle curve. And my buddies growing up in Verona, Wisconsin, always used to call this curve the Chinese triangle because it was so filthy. You just bend your hat in half, the brim, completely ruin the brim, all to look just like a Little League World Series player from China. All those dudes, their favorite player was Ichiro too. They'd always be like mumbling something in Chinese and they go, Ichiro. So the Chinese triangle, Azo, Post Malone, I'm not going to take credit for it, brought it back. I used to rock it, I would say, it's probably been 20 years since I brought back the Chinese triangle. So I just wanted to give some love to the Chinese Taipei Little League World Series team and the Chinese triangle curve. Because, boys, it is back, baby.
That was hilarious. It's so good. I've never even thought about those Chinese players in the Little League World Series from that day until now. How nasty were their teams, too? They were so good.
We always had some dude that was like 5'10". He never grew after that. And that's tall for Chinese standards. And he was throwing gas on the hill, like 75 on the gun. Yeah, man.
Just ripping them in there. And they'd hit so many dingers and their hats would just be
curved. So, yeah, that is the People's Insider term of the week, Chinese triangle. Azo, man. Well, I think that's all I got for today. No guests this week, folks. Just wanted to give a little bit of a State of the Union. Last week, we apologized for not getting something out there. So we'll drop this tomorrow. That will be Wednesday that people can hear it. So tape to tape with you, Captain. We'll be back next week. I'm heading to Miami. I'm going to the Miami Open. We actually we're doing this deal down there for Hockey Night in Scottsdale with Emmy Squared Pizza, but I'm hoping to see the Joker on Thursday. So that'll be sick. That'll be sick. In person. So hopefully we can see him on Thursday. Got tickets.
Yeah.
So
what's the weather like down there right now? Like 80s?
Yeah, 80s, I would say. Yeah,
that'll be money.
Yeah, the only city in the US you need a passport to get into that.
How many tourneys does this Joker play? Like, is this kind of a big tourney, or is he playing most of them?
Yeah, it's a big one. He played in the Indian Wells, got bounced early. He'll probably play in this one, and then he'll gear up for kind of the majors. I think this would be like his last one, and then he'll just play exhibitions and whatnot. So, yeah, I think it's probably his last one.
Got it. That's going to be unreal.
That is going to be unreal. But, all righty, Cap. That was episode number 80, Tape to Tape, Crispy, D to D, No Look. Folks, hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next week. Ballas. Woo! 'Cause I'm